Hello, my name is Rafael Moreno, and today I will be discussing the film I Saw the TV Glow by Jane Shilbrun. I Saw the TV Glow by is a queer film that was distributed by A24 in the year of 2024, starring Jack Haven as Maddie, and Justice Smith as Owen. So, as you might already know, A24 production is kind of known for creating films that are kind of difficult to understand and are somewhat tedious when it comes to the meaning. Um, I saw the TV Glow is one of them. The topics that we do see in the film that are kind of like hard to pinpoint on the first watch is topics of gender identity and queerness. Um, so I will be guiding you guys, the viewers, through the dissection of movie clips that kind of tie into these topics of identity and queerness. So, what is queer media? In an article by Karen Tongson titled Queer Keywords for Media, they state queer media, in other words, is as much about a queer engagement and sometimes resistance to certain processes of representation and mediation in the efforts to forge otherwise and a not yet striving for alternate and just relationalities or different paths to queerness. So, you might be wondering, what is I Saw the TV Glow about? So, I Saw the TV Glow is a coming of age story that follows the lives of Maddie and Owen. So Maddie and Owen both attend Voight High School, also known as VHS, and bond over the late '90s TV show The Pink Opaque. So this TV series, The Pink Opaque, follows two close friends, Tara and Isabel, who are able to bond due to their telepathic superpowers. So every Saturday at 10:30, we see the protagonists of The Pink Opaque fight monsters slash creatures that were sent by the antagonist, Mr. Melancholy. So because of Owen's age and his homophobic slash abusive father, he was never able to watch the show at home. So he would lie to his dad saying that he was going to a sleepover that was not Maddie's house, and would go to Maddie's home, and then they'll both watch the latest episode of The Pink Opaque. As the years go by, the relationship between Maddie and Owen becomes stronger, much like Tara and Isabel. Maddie, also living in an abusive household, she's just running away and taking Owen with her. But then Maddie reveals that this world that they are living in is kind of a lie, and they both are that reincarnation of the two protagonists from The Pink Opaque. So the next day, Maddie runs away without telling Owen. She sets her TV on fire, and The Pink Opaque was never renewed for another season. So one day, Owen was at a grocery store years later and finds Maddie. They catch up at a bar where Maddie tells Owen that she was able to escape. She partook in a ritual where she reincarnated as Tara and tells Owen that he should be doing the same because this world is manipulated by Mr. Melancholy. Maddie suggests to Owen to watch the latest episode, or the last episode, of The Pink Opaque. So in the end of that last episode, Tara and Isabel have their hearts taken out of their body by Mr. Melancholy. They were buried and forgotten. So this day was when Owen realized that he was in fact Isabel all along. In order to disappear from this terrible world Owen is living in, he must complete the ritual and become reincarnated, in which he rejects the offer. So years pass by, around 8 years later. Maddie is nowhere to be found again, and Owen becomes older. So Owen starts to deal with the passing of his father, working a 9-to-5 job that he absolutely hates, starts a family with a wife and kids. But none of this feels authentic to him. So one day, he goes to assist uh, at the arcade that he works at to throw a party, and starts having a panic attack full of like screaming and crying, and then just the people that are in that party are just standing still and silent, and no one questions what's wrong with Owen. Owen leaves the room, goes into the arcade's bathroom, and uses a box cutter to open up his chest, where we see the TV inside of him. And then in the end, Owen starts to apologize while leaving the arcade. And again, nobody like ever acknowledges his apology. And from there, we just never know what happens to Owen, whether he lives his life authentically or not. So you might be asking, how does this film showcase topics of identity? So I Saw the TV Glow is a dark film that is more than just 90s nostalgia. This film is an allegory for LGBTQI plus and two-spirit identifying people um, who are afraid of showing who they are, their true identity, due to persecution and bigotry in our household or in the world. Owen and Maddie are characters who represent the people who feel isolated, while Tara and Isabel represent the people who are free and are willing to come out of their shell and their comfort zone. And that's the people that both main characters of the movie strive to be. So, in the film, at 24 minutes, Owen asks if he can stay up at past his bedtime to watch The Pink Opaque. His bedtime is at 10:15, but the show comes on around 10:30 till 11. His father responds to him, "Isn't that a show for girls?" It is clear that this is a set ideology that Owen's father follows and that Owen's father follows. In an article titled Power and Ideology, Introduction to Study by J.F. Lindsay, he states, and while some ideologies can be benign, others can be quite dangerous. One is not born believing, for example, that there are differences in ability between men and women, but ideologies of patriarchy insist that there are, and convince many that they are. Since The Pink Opaque stars two teenage girls as the main characters in the eyes of his father, it's a show that no boy should watch. Usually, when we think of a show that a guy should watch, it's not something that is starring two girls who are fighting monsters, you know? In other words, we can see that Owen uses the Pink Opaque as a form of escapism to run away from his closed-minded father. When being placed in a household where you cannot express yourself, it leads to finding different ways to run away, as far as you can without actually running away. So the Pink Opaque is Owen's outlet to decompress and run away from his home. Then, in minute 34:40, as Owen and Maddie are watching the Pink Opaque together, Maddie expressed to Owen that the Pink Opaque feels more real than her life, and how she feels extremely connected to the show. Maddie, too, used the Pink Opaque as a form of escapism from her abusive stepfather. These two scenes of the film connect to an interview by Teddy Wards interviewing Jane Shelburne, where they state, a way to cope with repression. It's a film about where repression comes from and sort of quiet power of shame. And it's a film about how that can eventually and finally crack in a way that you can't hide from anymore. The Pink Opaque eventually comes to an end, so Owen and Maddie have to find a new way to cope with their fears of identity. Maddie ran away, partook in a rebirth ritual, and became the person she always wanted to be. Once she became Tara, she felt free from her small town and escaped the wrath of Mr. Melancholy. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case for Owen, and he continued to live a life full of lies. In addition, the denial of identity starts to show up. On minutes 37 to 39, we see Maddie is drawing the pink ghost from the Pink Opaque, which symbolizes an unbreakable connection to each other and the loving truth within oneself. Hence is why you see Isabel and Tara wearing the pink ghost, because it connects them together to become basically one. But that same night, Owen wakes up from the sleepover and starts to scrub off the pink ghost and suggests basically that he does not want to be seen wearing that ghost out of fear, feeling a sense of shame because of the person he is and wants to be. In which we see that Owen is affected by this Western world ideology that his father is subscribed to. It almost feels like it's kind of like an ideology that's really toxic. As Harry Benshoff stated, by most quantitative measures or by simply examining the ideologies expressed in popular culture, it is apparent that the ideologies of white supremacy, patriarchy, Judeo-Christianity, and capitalism continue to structure and dominate most aspects of Western culture. As stated before, because Owen grew up with a father that isolated him when it came to consumption of media, it's almost like when Owen would watch something that's outside of what is meant for him to watch, he feels this kind of shame because he's overstepping these set ideas of like what a cis male should be watching or should be doing. So Owen is scared to live his life authentically because of the possible rejection from his father. Another important clip from that movie that gives ties into Owen exploring his identity is at the marker 54 minutes. Maddie comes back to town. Owen's at the grocery store. They head to the bar to catch up, and Maddie asks Owen if he just remembered The Pink Opaque as a show. Owen said yes, The Pink Opaque was a show that they just watched from 10:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. But while they are speaking, it cuts to clips of Owen wearing a pink dress. We see Maddie smiling and Owen feeling this sense of comfort. Maddie is trying to tell Owen that The Pink Opaque feels like real life. Maddie is Tara and Owen is Isabel. This is the egg crack moment that Shelburne is talking about. The Pink Opaque helped Owen discover who he is, but is afraid of accepting that reality. Lastly, as we get to the end of the film, at 1 hour and 29 minutes, we see Owen cutting his chest open with a box cutter. Once his chest is open, we see that there is a TV inside of him, showing a static and lights. The pink opaque is a metaphor for the pink inside of the body one cannot see, meaning that Owen was able to accept his true self until he opened his chest and saw what was inside of him and what he was made of, symbolizing that Owen has become accepting of his queer/trans identity. In this scene, he was able to find courage to, without feeling that sense of pressure to conform to societal standards of a cis male, and has that feeling that like this is the moment where I'm able to be free. Unfortunately, as I stated before, the movie ends with Owen just leaving the arcade, and from there we never know if Owen actually lived his life as authentically as possible or if he stayed, um, you know, the same depressed person who is miserable in his 9 to 5 job and feels like he's not a great father figure for his children and a good husband. So, in order to conclude this, Mr. Melancholy is the homophobia and the hate of the world. I, as a queer person, have experienced a fight with Mr. Melancholy, where I was being judged and persecuted for my identity. In this film, Mr. Melancholy is Owen's homophobic father, Maddie's abusive stepfather, and their bigoted small town. Being comfortable with your gender identity is something that does not happen instantly. Some people are able to find who they truly are, and some are not. This is not a race. And remember, as the film suggests, there is still time. Thank you.